What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 13, Bury Me Here. And what? What is this? An episode on the, or a review on the same night as the episode happens? What? This is unreal. I'm finally caught back up. Don't know how it happened. Just had a couple weeks where some of the shows that I watched took a week off, and it happened a few weeks in a row, so finally managed to get caught back up, so let's get on it. So this is the 13th episode of The Walking Dead, and this is definitely, you can see it where it's building to. And I'm going to go ahead and throw out my theory. I believe I've got it figured out. This season is going to end with the start of the war. And I believe Season 8 is going to be the war with the Saviors. I don't know how the war is going to start yet because I haven't read the comics and I don't want to know. But I believe somehow something's going to kickstart the war at the end of this season. And so next season will be all about the war. It'll be all about, the Saviors, the Alexandrians, the Hilltop and Kingdom, maybe Oceanside, all of it clashing. So, yeah, this is how the Kingdom gets involved. We see this is mainly about Morgan in this episode, which I kind of figured, Daryl even said, it has to be you when he was talking to Morgan a few episodes ago. And we see he was right. It's very obvious that it has to be Morgan because Ezekiel doesn't really trust anybody as much as he trusts Morgan. So we see they're doing one of their drops, and they're getting there, and there's cantaloupes. But before they get there, they run across this little barrier thing with an arrow pointing to a grave that says "Bury me here." I wish they hadn't shown that it was Richard out there, because as soon as we saw that, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I may have been able to figure it out without seeing Richard out there, but showing Richard to us just kind of made it took away some of the, I guess, the special feeling whenever you figure something out for yourself. Like if they had not shown us Richard, if they had just shown us Carol out there with the walker, she's looking around, and then shown somebody walking away and not shown us who it was, and then they showed this scene, I would have been like, wait, okay, so who was that person? What was going on? But they showed us it was Richard. So as soon as this happened, I knew exactly what was going on. And so they get to the drop. Of course, they're mad that they're late, and then they check their supplies. They figure out there's one missing. And so the leader, who, I can't remember his name, I think his name is Gavin. It was either, I can't remember if Gavin was that guy's name or if it was the name of the other guy that was with the Saviors that kept terrorizing Richard. But we see that he's like, look, you were late, you're missing one, we talked about this, this can't happen. And so he told his little creepy guy that loves to torment people, he's like, do it now. And so he puts the gun to Richard's face, and of course, this is exactly what Richard wants. However, Richard kind of actually plays himself in this instance, because I think when he says, just do it, I think the guy kind of realized, you want this, don't you? You want to die. Well, guess what? Screw you. Points, shoots, it cuts to black, but I knew instantly they shot the kid, because that's pretty much the only thing that would make this even more emotional, is if you shoot the kid. And so Benjamin's been shot. They take him back to Carol's house to have her try to help him, but unfortunately they were too late. So Benjamin dies, but he does leave Morgan with a parting last word. And it was something that Morgan had actually been teaching him, and he had said to Morgan earlier in the episode, he's like, you taught me that to injure your opponent is to injure yourself. And so that's exactly the same thing he says when he's on his deathbed, which I really kind of like, because it's true. If you think about what this means, killing Benjamin is going to force Ezekiel's hand, most likely. And, in a strange kind of way, it also forces Carol's hand because of the events that follow. So, of course, Morgan is, we see the connection that he had formed with Benjamin. There's even a point where later on in the episode where he calls him Dwayne. So I like seeing that connection, and I like seeing the scene that shows how much he meant to him. Like there's a scene where he's going crazy. He's just screaming, he's yelling, he's kicking stuff, he's sitting in the grave, and is about to cut his wrist, but then doesn't. You can see just how much that this kid meant to him, and how much of a bond that they shared. I really like that scene. It was kind of scary for a moment, because it's just like, holy crap, Morgan might kill himself? Wait, what? And it kind of came out of nowhere. but you understand it. You understand the feeling. You understand the emotion behind that. So Morgan, while he's out there, kicks over a box and finds the missing cantaloupe. At which point he remembers, wait a minute, Richard was the last one to come out of the truck. So he goes to Richard's room, tosses a little recycling bin down, pretty much like a pack your things gesture. But then Richards goes through this whole explanation about, oh, my family, and oh, what happened to him before the whole thing started, and blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, please shut him up. Like, I don't know, if this were anybody else, I'd be like, I'd want to know his story. But honestly, you just had Benjamin killed. It's your fault. You know, you wanted to kill yourself. It didn't work because you're not smart enough. And so now you got Benjamin killed. And now you want to expound your entire story. You want to exposit to us about how sad my story is. Everybody's gone through shit. You know, like, I'm sure somebody else could probably top your story about 20 times over. And yet we're just sitting to this entire scene, listening to him. Oh, my life sucks. Oh, this happened. Oh, I'm sorry. Honestly, the scene just went on way too long, in my opinion. Like, I was really hoping that Morgan was just about to cut him off at some point, but he never did. And so, if I did have one complaint, it would be that. It would be that scene. I felt like there was no need for it. We don't need to know his story. We don't need to know why this happened to him. We don't need to know that, oh, this was his whole plan the entire time. It just felt unnecessary, and it felt unnecessarily long. Like, we just had to explain all of this. We had to explain his motivations. I don't care about his motivations. You know, like, I could probably guess just from showing me the backpack, just from showing me the backpack with the name Katie on it. I could probably guess his motivations. But you had to explain and explain and explain. It had to be at least 5 to 10 minutes long. Just explaining, explaining. And I'm just waiting for Morgan to just punch him or something. But ultimately that doesn't happen. We cut to the next scene. We see Morgan grieving over Benjamin. And so we go to the next drop, which I do kind of like just the idea of this, because this guy that is dealing with Ezekiel, he is probably the most understanding of the Savior's like leader type figures. I mean, you think about what's his name? Simon? Is that his name? I can't remember his name now. Stephen Ogg's character. I want to say it's Simon. You think about him, he's crazy. He is insane. Think about Negan. He is really crazy. Dwight, pretty insane as well. I mean, had a doctor killed for no reason. This guy actually seems like he's a reasonable guy. You know, how many times have there been these tense negotiations where all of a sudden Richard does something stupid and his right-hand man did something stupid as well, and nobody died? You know, there were times where he had to kind of quell the situation, and he did so in a way that did favor the Saviors, but he also kind of kept his guy in check as well, where Negan would probably commend that sort of behavior. So he has been very reasonable, and so seeing this scene where, you know, they come and they only have one cantaloupe because that's the last cantaloupe they deserve. You know, that's the cantaloupe that they earned, or at least he thinks so. And so just seeing that he gave them the chance to make up for that, it's like, okay, so he's not as unreasonable as, you know, Negan would have killed like 3 people just to get that one cantaloupe. And then on top of that, we see he asks about, you know, the kid, you know, how is he doing? And he realizes he's dead, and so he sends that guy away. He's like, walk now, do not look at me, or I swear I'll kill you right here, right now. So you see that he does, it's almost like he does respect the fact that we can't kill them. You know, like, if we kill them, not only do we take away one of their workers, but also I think he understands the fact that it could give them a reason to stand up and fight. You know, it could give them a reason to fight. So I like the fact that he sort of took a stand there and said, you're gone, you leave now because you killed somebody. Almost as if to say, look, I'm with you guys, okay? I hate the fact that he killed him as well, so don't be angry with me. It was all him. You know, he's done with me now. So then gets to the most interesting part of the episode. Richard goes up to him and starts talking about, you know, we understand, he's got the cantaloupe. And then Morgan's just like, no, screw that shit. Knocks him in the face, knocks him to the ground, chokes him to death. Yeah, Morgan killed him. At first I was like, you know, is he gonna knock him out? What's he gonna do? He just kills him with his bare hands. I'm just like, holy crap. And of course, at this point, he does explain. I was worried that he wasn't going to explain anything. He was just going to walk away or something, because a lot of shows tend to do something like that. They create misunderstandings. But he does explain everything to Ezekiel and to Gavin. He's like, he's the one that caused us to be late. He's the one that set up the blockade. He's the one that took away our cantaloupe. And so I killed him for it. He tried to start a war between us. And so then he turns to Gavin and he's like, we understand what's expected of us. I'm wondering if maybe he kind of realized that he needed to do that in front of Gavin. He needed to show Gavin that this is what he was, I'm willing to help you by killing this guy that was trying to start a war between us. Because, Richard was saying that they needed to gain their trust again and then kill them whenever they had it. And I think Morgan saw this as an opportunity to gain their trust by killing the guy that was trying to start a war between the two of them. And so I think that they didn't really expand upon that, so I'm hoping that's the truth. I'm hoping this isn't just like, oh no, he just decided in that one moment to kill him because he lost all composure. I really do hope that they talk about that at some point and confirm that's his plan. That was why Morgan waited until this very moment to kill Richard. So maybe, maybe not, but we do see at the end, we see him sharpening his spear, getting ready, what looks like for war. But also, it is kind of concerning because I do feel like this is going to be the path that leads Morgan probably to his death. It's almost like Benjamin was his last chance to have happiness again. Like I said, he saw him as his son. And so now that he's gone, now that he's dead, I think Morgan's officially on a path to his death. He's going to take out as many of them as he can before he goes down. And honestly, that is kind of the end that's fitting of a character like Morgan. Pretty much any of the main characters right now, if Daryl were to be gone, if Michonne were to be gone, if Carol were to be gone, if any of these main characters right now were to die, I'd want them to go down in a blaze of glory. I want them to go down taking out so many people before they die. And that was, I hope they do. Obviously, I don't hope that people die. I don't think anybody watches this show and is like, ooh, I hope this person dies. But if they were to die, I would want them to see that type of death. I'd want them to go out really, really just taking as many people as possible. Because that's the type of death that Morgan deserves. So aside from the whole Morgan story, there were a couple of things going on. We see Carol is talking to Morgan early on, and she wants to know why Jesus brought everybody to the kingdom. Was Daryl lying to her? Is everybody really okay? And at first Morgan says, what happened? What he said between you two is between you two. If you want to go see Alexandria, I'll take you there now. And of course, Carol's just like, whatever. You're avoiding the question too. So she leaves. And we do see, obviously, the scene where they bring Benjamin to her. Very emotional for her because she had told him, that he needed to stay and go do with the drop. And if he hadn't, he wouldn't be dead. And so at the end, Morgan comes up after killing a ton of walkers, after burying Richard in his grave, and knocks on her door, says, do you want to know what happened in Alexandria? And tells her about what happened with Richard and Benjamin, and then tells her about Glenn and Abraham and Spencer and Olivia. And so at that point, you kind of know that, yeah, it's on. Carol is officially, she's back in the business of probably taking Negan down. And at first I kind of wondered if they were kind of going to tag team and just go it alone. But we do see that she does head back to the kingdom and goes and talks to Ezekiel and says, we have to fight. And he says, yes, but not now. So we see Ezekiel is officially on board, but I do think that he kind of understands that now is not the right time. I think he and Morgan both kind of see, first they have to gain the trust of the Saviors so that they can sort of take them by surprise, have an element of surprise involved. Which does bring me to one point that hasn't really been touched on. The pigs that they were feeding the walkers to. Oh no, the pigs that they were feeding walkers. It's hard to phrase that correctly grammatically. But there was that, we had that scene, and it made me wonder, what if this is them trying to make them sick? And we haven't really talked about that, that if you eat animals that have eaten walkers, does that make you sick? Does that affect you at all? Because it doesn't seem like it has, it's not like the guys come in and be like, oh yeah, why are all the people getting sick after eating the meat that you gave us? So I have to wonder, is that even doing anything, or was that just something where they're like, oh, well, the pigs need to eat something, well, let's just feed them walkers because that's the only thing we have? Or was that actually a clever plan put in place? So hopefully we'll talk about that a bit more. Hopefully we'll expand upon what that means. But it does look like Ezekiel's ready to fight. I think he sees he needs to prepare first. He needs to, be a bit more strategical than just, oh, let's just all go kill them now. But I love the fact that Carol's back, and it looks like she's back and ready to take on some people. I don't know where it's going from here, but honestly, this was, aside from that one scene with Richard and just explaining all that, I still feel like that was unnecessary. But overall, this episode was still a good one. It was still enjoyable. It's still a lot of story building, but you can see where it's going. And I think the excitement of what it's building to is making me just really enjoy these episodes and seeing all the pieces being moved. It's honestly kind of like watching a chessboard. Watching people play chess, and well, some people may find that really boring. It's like, oh, who cares? I just want to see blood and gore and fighting, blah. I do like kind of the chess element of it. Just thinking about, okay, so Rick is making his moves, meanwhile Ezekiel's making his moves, and Negan's making his moves. So all of these people are constantly making moves, trying to do something, trying to create an advantage for themselves. And who knows where it's going to end? Who knows who's going to come out on top? It may be where Alexandra is the only one left, or maybe Hilltop is the only one left, plus like Rick and a few other people. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm really looking forward to it. Next week looks like it's going to be Hilltop based, and I think the episode after that one, the one leading into the season finale, will probably be Oceanside based, just because I feel like we need to get all of these groups. It feels like that's what they've been doing, is just hitting group by group. So last episode was the junkyard people, getting guns for them. The episode before that was the Saviors and Negan. The episode before that was Hilltop. The episode before that was meeting the junkyard people. So it's almost like they've been hitting it piece by piece. Like, okay, so here's this group, here's this group, here's this group. And so we saw the Kingdom in this one, Hilltop in the next one, probably Oceanside, and then finally it's going to be probably all of them sort of coming together and saying, okay, it's time. It's time to enact some sort of plan. I hope. I really hope this isn't going to end in like some kind of cheap fashion where, oh yeah, we'll get to the war later on next season. I want it to end with, it's time for war. And that's the entire next season, is just the war between all these groups. That would be awesome. I really hope that's where it's going. It's going to make next season even better. But that's about it for me. So, if you're not a big fan of the chess moves and stuff like that, probably won't enjoy this one. But if you like strategy, it's my little word, sorry, strategy. If you like the strategy element of it, if you like watching people sort of make moves to build up to a war, you'll like this episode. But if you like the more fast-paced, intense ones where people are dying left and right and they're taking on walkers, taking on fighting, all that stuff, probably not the episode for you. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Walking Dead reviews, and I'll see you at the next one.